Hello everyone, I hope you guys are doing great, whether it be night or day, wherever you are. If you're new to the channel, hi, welcome, and I'm so happy that you can join us today for another story that I wrote, which is a child or Tartaglia ex-listener entitled But If You Close Your Eyes. And as always, links for the music used in this video will be down below, and further announcements will be said after the video. I hope you guys enjoy. The fresh sound of metallic clanks resonated in the air as both blades hit one another in a furious dance of battle. You were determined yet again to bring Child to his knees as revenge for the last time that he played dirty and nearly drowned you with a sudden splash to the face. Okay, maybe that wasn't really playing dirty, but rather a simple and tactical attack that you should have not failed to see. Listener, focus. You were faced in another battle, or rather, training yet again with the fishy Fatui boy, or so you like to tease him. Now at a cliff, to make sure that there was enough space to attack. You nearly lost concentration yet again as you stifled a laugh at his nickname before suddenly being met with a blade nearly inches to your face. Child grinned in what he could only surmise as yet again his victory before you took another swing to try to at least push him off you. You didn't seem to notice that the action caused you instead to be pushed from him as his face grew farther and farther from yours. You smiled though, as your actions finally gave you results that you actually intended, but grew confused as Child still seemed to be growing farther and farther. Child, on the other hand, had his eyes wide as saucers as he dashed to grow closer instead. It only hit you then that it wasn't him that was going farther that was the case, but in fact you were falling off the cliff. Shoot, you missed your footing, didn't you? You did say to focus, and yet here you are. You would have made your way to open your glider if it had not been Child plummeting down and wrapping his arms around you to bring both of you to the depths below. You screamed this time, but not in fear or pain upon impact, but rather, "Holy realms, the water's freezing." You managed to get out, shivering through gritted teeth. Child still had a worried look plastered on his face the whole time that you two were swimming to the shore. You breathed out a sigh of relief at barely managing to cross the water and head back to the shore on your last breath. You then laughed out but grew a bit worried as Child was still silent, standing behind your crouched figure. Child?
You're reckless.
He spat, making you turn all of a sudden to be met with the same glazed and worried face as before. He closed his eyes and sighed out before crouching and sitting on the sand next to you.
Be glad that it was water this time. You never think about your actions and you just keep doing things head on. Might as well be two, sir, as both of you are hard-headed like that.
He continued. This caught you off guard, as you expected that Child would simply laugh at it and chuck it up to another one of your carelessness. You even expected him to gloat of how clumsy you were with your footing or something, but rather, he stared at you in bemusement when you suddenly burst in a fit of laughter, even pouting and grumbling for you to take him seriously. Oh my realms, The mighty carefree child all of a sudden growing serious like that? Who could resist? Not because you wanted to invalidate his concern, but rather, him doing a full 180 was simply something to catch you off guard. It didn't take long before Child caught your laughter and began himself, seeing how quite amusing his sudden motherly turn was. He and you shared a genuine laugh for a while before dying down once more and simply catching your breaths. You curled up to your knees onto yourself, looking at Child, who was wiping bits of sand that were stuck on his face. You smiled, mulling over the fact that it's moments like these ones that made you reconsider his character. He can't have been such an evil person if he had the time to worry himself over others, right? I mean, he is a decent person when he isn't trying to scheme anything. As you thought so, you quietly grew to reminisce the fact that he did try to drown Liyue for Arkan's sake. And with a water serpent nonetheless. This fishy Fatui boy even left you there to deal with it, and not to mention, he did try to kill you moments before that. All for the sake of a gnosis? Mental note. You might have to recalculate your moral compass every once in a while after all. You looked towards the sea as you spoke once more. I'm willing to bet that Tusa really misses you. You are quite the older brother. Child froze upon your words and pouted to himself. After all that, he gets brother-zoned. Really, traveler? Brother-zoned. That was even worse than being friend-zoned. As you looked at him once more, you stifled a snicker at his expression, opting to tease him by saying that the face suited him after all. It's nice though, how he still cared for his family and seemed to keep the fond memories instead, as he even unconsciously talked about them sometimes. Your heart felt some kind of tug at this. You were sure that he missed his kin as well, just like you missed yours. With all the thoughts running around in your head, coupled with the physical strain of training that finally caught up to you, you couldn't help but fall back out of exhaustion, laying your head flatly without a care for the sand, and simply close your eyes from it all. Child, rather, Tartaglia, one of the 11 Fatui Harbingers nonetheless. Could you really trust him? After all, you weren't one to judge a person of where they came from, nor what they did, but rather what they decide to do next, and how they treat you and the people around you. That being said, he is an adorable toy maker, and yet someone who wouldn't blink if the Tsaritsa would order him to be rid of you. Every time that you were with him, it felt comfortable, and yet you couldn't help but have the rest of your thoughts just linger in the back of your head. You didn't know what to think anymore. Child turns to you, noting how you suddenly grew silent, only to find you laying with your eyes closed. This caught him off guard, knowing that this would be the last thing that you wanted to do, since, after all, you yourself said that you wouldn't trust a guy like him to be around you in your sleep, and yet, here you were? Well, Technically, you weren't sleeping, but in all the combined exhaustion and fatigue, you didn't even realize before this moment you failed to also catch the fact that there was a stray of seaweed that clung to your hair for dear life. Your brow nodded when you felt a small drift on these strands as Child gently picked up the green strip off of you. Tartaglia, what are you, doing? You questioned, but still kept your eyes closed. You better not be cutting my hair, or I will tie you up to a Pyroregis vine and leave you there to roast. Child chuckled at this statement, before simply stating that he just thought that you wouldn't want a green strip hanging out on your hair all day, for the fear of making you smell fishy by a long shot. You grinned deviously before replying, "You're right. That is your signature scent," with an undertone of betrayal. He had to give it to you. He was amused at how you seemed to have the perfect insult toward him every time, and yet, as he leaned over to fix a part of your hair, all he could think was of how he couldn't help but admire your calm figure just peacefully laying beneath him. His eyes trailed through your entire face, over your lashes laying against your eyes, how soft your cheeks look, and even your lips, to which he subconsciously swallowed. You still had your eyes closed, to which Child thanked the Archons for, as you spoke once more. What are you still doing? He stayed silent, as if rethinking his words before finally letting them out as he placed a hand to cover your eyes instead.
Would you trust me?
You raised a hand to place on his, but decided against it and kept it on your chest. I don't know, was all you mustered out. Given all the things that he's done before, he couldn't blame you. You too couldn't blame him just as much for wanting to keep you by his side, because even through all of that, you still see the good in him. After all, if you didn't, would you have allowed yourself to be there just laying vulnerably?
Do you at least trust me enough to keep your eyes closed?
He muttered. You thought for a moment, feeling a shift from his usual childish antics. He was serious this time, wasn't he? If I get stabbed or harmed in all this, know that all the times that we have been together will mean nothing. I will have to treat you as an enemy. But I am trusting you this once. You say, matching his tone and placing a hand over his, which was still covering your eyes. He too couldn't help but have the second thought at his next actions. He didn't wish to harm you, but rather, would you treat him as an enemy if he did what he was planning next? Would you feel betrayed? Would you hate him? It was as if time dragged on without hearing his reply, but rather his quickened breath till you finally grew impatient. Child was one to have his doubts as he leaned closer, ready to risk the fact that you might actually think of him not worthy of your trust any longer and just morally think your response. He shifted the blade on his side, and just then you decided to get up, unknowingly closing the gap between you two. Both of you froze for a second, as Child then parted slightly. Arkan's sake, he didn't know whether to sigh in relief at the fact that he finally managed to move the sword that had been digging at his side for a while now, or keep his breath at what just happened. True, he had been planning to do so, rather chickening out, but he simply erupted into a flustered mess, feeling the blood rush to his head. You took off his hand from your eyes to look at him mere inches away from you. This time, you smiled softly when Child's reddened face greeted you. His cheeks, even his ears, were bright, as the blush slightly trailed to his nape. What made an anticlimactic twist, though, was the fact that his nose started to gush a drop of red that made you lay your head back down in a stifled laugh. Who knew? The Fatui who had been flirting with you since the first time you met was quite a flustered one, apparently. You lifted your hand to wipe it off, and gladly it had stopped on its own. You smiled once more and simply held his hand over your eyes again. Child smiled to himself. So this was your answer. As he leaned back down to close the gap between you two once more, he couldn't be happier to simply revel in the moment. Meanwhile, the poor Cryo Abyss Mage had no idea if they should utter the words, "Calm down," or the sight of the fuming blonde before them made them do a double take and simply place a hand on his shoulder, doubting if it would keep the blonde at bay anyways. Ether was raging, and it took all of his willpower not to march straight up to his sibling for the surprise of a lifetime.
He better choose a god and pray now.
Ether seethed at the sight of you and Tartaglia, as they were simply hidden a few feet away. Ah, yes. After all, he still couldn't help but be a caring sibling to you. Ether turned to the mage with a glint in his eye and a murderous look.
Gather everyone in the abyss.
His sudden motherly What was simp? He simp. Ether? How do I say that? Aether? What? Ether seethed. He seethed at the... Ether seethed at the... Okay, so that was it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing, as I am posting 5 days a week. And again, links will be in the description down below, and also my Discord tag in the about page of my YT if you like to DM me or just interact. So there probably will be a little bit of technical difficulties with this one because I'm still not used to the recording device, but hopefully I'll be able to fix it soon. If you have any original stories that I can read or you would like to submit, kindly link them down below or send them to me via DM, or even links to some personal favorites, as long as I have permissions, or maybe requests for some characters or scenarios. Just DM me or place it in the comments down below, and I would definitely love to read them and hopefully manage to write the requests. Okay, that's really it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay hydrated, stay safe, bye.